February 19, 1986. Barry Seal, the man who smuggled 56 tons of cocaine for Pablo Escobar, reaches for his car door. 3 Colombian assassins step out of the shadows, and in just 3 seconds they unload nearly 80 rounds through his windshield. Blood splatters across federal documents that could have helped convict Escobar himself. Here's the wild part. Everyone saw this coming. The DEA begged the judge to protect him. The FBI warned of incoming hitmen. And Seal knew it too. Days earlier, he handed his kids $150,000 and told them, when, not if. 6 months before this night, the 300-pound pilot was Escobar's prized smuggler, moving 56 tons of cocaine with unmatched precision. Then the CIA flipped him, sent him back to photograph Escobar standing beside Nicaraguan communists. Those pictures reached Reagan's desk, and then someone leaked them to the press. Overnight, Barry Seal became a man who could destroy the Medellin cartel and expose the CIA's back-channel drug operations. Both sides wanted him silenced. But which one reached him first? And why did Washington let their most valuable informant die? Adler Berriman, Barry Seal, earned his pilot's license on July 16, 1955, his 16th birthday. While other kids drove their dad's Chevy to prom, Seal flew a Piper Cub to his. At 26, he became Transworld Airlines' youngest 747 captain, flying routes from JFK to Rome with nearly 400 passengers aboard. His TWA supervisor, Bob Jura, remembered Seal hand-flying a 747 through a brutal Atlantic storm without breaking a sweat. The man craved danger the way most people crave air. But the $160,000 salary wasn't enough. Neither was the status. Seal needed adrenaline. July 1976 changed everything. He smuggled his first load, 700 pounds of Jamaican marijuana in a borrowed Piper Aztec. The profit? $35,000 for 4 hours of flying. When TWA fired him in 1974 over a later dropped explosives charge, Seal didn't care. He'd already found his new life. By 1979, he owned 3 planes and flew smuggling runs weekly. Then came cocaine. Jorge Ochoa approached him at a Miami marina in December 1980. The Medellin cartel needed someone capable of moving real weight, at least 1,000 kilos per flight. The offer, $1 million per run. Seal accepted before Ochoa even finished talking. His first cocaine flight came on March the 24th, 1981. 1,200 kilos from Colombia to Louisiana. He flew at 180 feet over the Gulf of Mexico, below radar, burning fuel at a rate that would terrify any normal pilot. But Seal wasn't normal. He'd added extra fuel tanks, giving him 7 hours of range. He memorized every radar installation from Barranquilla to Brownsville. At 500 feet and 120 knots, his Aerostar looked like a helicopter on DEA screens. Controllers dismissed him as just another oil rig shuttle. The money turned insane. By 1982, he was earning $1.5 million per trip, twice a month. He bought a 6,000-square-foot house in Baton Rouge, a Learjet, 6 sports cars, and hid $25 million in Cayman accounts. But here's why Escobar loved him. Barry Seal never lost a load. Not one. Other pilots crashed, got caught, or skimmed product. Seal delivered every gram. His secret? Military-level planning. He studied weather 6 days ahead, memorized DEA shift rotations, and prepared 3 flight plans for each run. If turbulence hit near Honduras, he dropped to wave height. If radar locked on near Cancun, he landed at one of the 14 private strips he'd scouted across Central America. The cartel called him El Gordo, not just for his size, but because he made everyone rich. Carlos later, Escobar's transport chief, said SEAL moved more weight in 1982 than their entire Bahamian fleet. The Ochoas gifted him a gold Rolex engraved, "To Barry, 1,000 flights, 1,000 successes." The real count was 143 trips, but no one cared. Each run fed enough cocaine into the U.S. to supply Miami for a month. DEA agent Ernst Jacobson later testified that SEAL single-handedly caused U.S. cocaine prices to drop 30% between 1981 and 1983. One man shifted the entire drug economy, but it was never a matter of if he'd get caught, only which agency would snag him first. By January 1983, the DEA, FBI, and Customs all had active files on him. What none of them knew was that another three-letter agency had been watching him for 2 years. Which agency needed a pilot who would fly anything, anywhere, without asking questions? And why was SEAL arrested at an airport owned by that very agency? March 5, 1984. Fort Lauderdale Executive Airport. DEA agents surrounded SEAL's C-123K cargo plane, the same model that would later crash in Nicaragua carrying CIA weapons for the Contras. Inside, 462 pounds of uncut cocaine worth $34 million. SEAL stepped out, hands raised, grinning. "Gentlemen, you just caught the biggest fish in the Caribbean. The question is, what are you willing to pay for the whole ocean?" Agent Jacobson arrested him but instantly saw the opportunity. SEAL knew routes, bribes, bank accounts, from Bogota to Boston. More importantly, Escobar still knew him only as Ellis Mackenzie, an alias. If they moved fast, SEAL could return to Colombia before anyone realized he'd been arrested. Within 72 hours, SEAL sat in a Washington office signing a cooperation deal. He'd work undercover in exchange for a suspended sentence. The government seized his planes, then quietly let him buy them back through a shell company. To the cartel, nothing looked unusual. Business as usual. Then the CIA stepped in. Through Vice President George Bush's Drug Task Force, SEAL's mission expanded from drug enforcement to Cold War intelligence. The U.S. wanted proof that the Nicaraguan Sandinistas were trafficking cocaine. That evidence could unlock funding for the Contras. SEAL's new mission? Photograph communist officials handling cocaine with Escobar's men. The DEA installed hidden cameras in his plane. The CIA added encrypted radios worth more than the aircraft itself. On June 25, 1984, SEAL flew to Los Brasiles military airfield in Nicaragua. Federico Vaughn, a Sandinista official, oversaw the loading. Escobar arrived separately with Carlos later. Here's where SEAL's improvisation saved him. He claimed the plane felt tail-heavy and insisted on supervising weight distribution. It gave him a reason to move around, quietly snapping photos while pretending to calculate balance. He captured Escobar holding a duffel of cocaine. He photographed Vaughn counting cash. He got clear shots of Nicaraguan military guarding the operation. SEAL flew back with 1,500 kilos of cocaine and what the DEA called the intelligence coup of the decade. But someone in Washington decided the photos were too valuable to keep secret. Who made that call? And why was propaganda worth more than Barry SEAL's life? July 1st, 1984. Colonel Oliver North reviewed SEAL's photographs in a secure room at the old executive office building. The images were explosive. Pablo Escobar and Nicaraguan officials handling cocaine with military aircraft in the background. North immediately classified them as strategic intelligence assets. Within 48 hours, he briefed CIA Director William Casey. Within 72 hours, the photos were on President Reagan's desk. The administration had been struggling to convince Congress to keep funding the Contras. But these images changed everything. They were proof, visual proof, that America's enemies were drug traffickers. Reagan wanted to use the photos immediately in a televised address, but the DEA panicked. Revealing the photos would burn SEAL's cover and destroy their entire operation. DEA Administrator Francis Mullen flew to Washington to object. He warned Oliver North point blank, "If you leak these, you will kill Barry Seal." According to declassified notes, North responded with chilling cold. Sometimes individual sacrifices serve larger national interests. The CIA backed him. Director Casey was quoted as saying, "We can't let operational timidity handicap foreign policy." And with that, the DEA lost. Politics beat protection, and SEAL's fate was sealed. July 17, 1984. Barry Seal bought a Washington Times at a Baton Rouge newsstand. The headline read, "Sandinistas deal in cocaine, U.S. finds." Beneath it was the photo Seal risked his life to take. He froze. The coffee mug slipped from his hand and shattered on the pavement. The article, written by Edmund Jacoby, cited high-level administration sources, revealing details only Seal could have provided. His name wasn't printed, but anyone in the cartel who could tie two facts together would know exactly who took those photos. Seal drove straight to his DEA handler's house. Agent Jacobson found him sitting in his car, newspaper in his lap, crying. "They killed me," Seal whispered. He wasn't wrong. The Medellin cartel reacted instantly. Within 12 hours, they placed a $500,000 bounty on Ellis McKenzie. Within 24 hours, they learned Ellis McKenzie was actually Barry Seal. Jorge Ochoa raised the bounty to $1 million. Escobar personally added $500,000 more. Every sicario from Cali to Caracas received Seal's photo and home address. The DEA begged him to enter witness protection. New name, new city, total disappearance. But Seal refused. He had 3 kids, a wife who wouldn't leave Louisiana, and a stubborn belief that he could handle whatever came his way. He'd survived 143 runs through hostile airspace. He kept 2 pistols at home. His house had sensors and reinforced doors. How bad could a few Colombian hitmen be, he thought. He had no idea. From October 1984 to February 1985, Seal testified before 3 federal grand juries, helping indict 59 major traffickers. His testimony alone put Carlos Lader away for life, plus 135 years. He was building the case that would corner Escobar himself. But each public appearance painted a bigger target on his back. He became both the most valuable and the most vulnerable witness in America. The Justice Department provided intermittent security, a word that would become a death sentence. Protection was limited to moments of special risk. The problem? For Barry Seal, every moment was special risk. Who decided that part-time security was enough for the most hunted man in the country? And why did one Louisiana judge ignore federal warnings about the halfway house arrangement that would become Seal's execution site? Judge Frank Polizzola of the Louisiana Middle District Court had a reputation for harsh, symbolic sentencing. Appointed by Reagan in 1980, he believed in making public examples out of criminals. On December 20th, 1985, when Barry Seal stood for sentencing, prosecutors expected leniency. His cooperation had been historic. DEA Supervisor Kenneth Kennedy testified that Seal was the most important witness in the history of the Drug Enforcement Administration. Federal prosecutor Stanford Bardwell requested no jail time. Seal was still needed for ongoing cases, but Judge Polizzola had other ideas. "Mr. Seal," he said coldly, "you imported tons of poison into our communities. Your cooperation does not erase your crimes." The sentence: 5 years, probation, and 6 months at a Salvation Army halfway house. Not house arrest at Seal's fortified home. Not protective custody, a public halfway house with zero security. Seal's attorney, Louis Unglesby, protested, "Your Honor, this is a death sentence. The cartel knows his identity. A halfway house makes him a sitting duck." Polizzola didn't budge. He knew what he was doing. To this day, people believe he was paid off by Escobar. There's no proof, only the logic that no rational judge would send a hunted man to live on a schedule posted publicly like a bus timetable. The halfway house sat at 8401 Airline Highway in Baton Rouge, wedged between a liquor store and a used car lot. No gates, no guards, no cameras, just a chain-link fence a teenager could climb. Residents had to check in by 6 p.m., couldn't leave until 6 a.m., and the schedule was posted for anyone to see. Colombian assassins testified later that it took them 3 days to locate the halfway house and 2 days to plan the hit. They could have done it faster. They just wanted it perfect. January 1986. The FBI warned of imminent threats. 3 Colombian nationals had entered the U.S. through Mexico with false papers. Intelligence said they were Medellin sicarios. The DEA begged Polizzola to modify the sentence, to let Seal serve time at home or move him into protective custody. He refused again. He later claimed he wasn't told of any specific, credible threat, a statement FBI agents immediately contradicted. Agent Lloyd Cravens swore under oath that he personally delivered a threat report warning Seal's assassination was very likely and recommending immediate relocation. Polizzola ignored it. February 8, 1986. Seal met his DEA handlers for the last time. He gave them a briefcase with personal papers and $150,000 in cash. "For my kids," he said. He knew what was coming. Agent Jacobson begged him to run. Seal shook his head. "Where would I go that $1 million couldn't find me? At least here, I'm on my home turf." He was wrong. The killers had been watching him for a week. They knew his routine. They knew where he parked. They knew he carried guns but didn't draw them walking from his car. They even knew his coffee stop. Barry Seal had only seconds left. February 19, 1986, 4:47 p.m. Miguel Velez, Luis Quintero Cruz, and Bernardo Antonio Vasquez met at the Belmont Hotel on Airline Highway. In their room, they loaded MAC-10 submachine guns with 45 ACP hollow points, 30-round magazines that could empty in under 2 seconds. At 5:15 p.m., they drove a stolen 1981 Buick Regal to the Salvation Army halfway house parking lot. Velez positioned himself behind a green dumpster, just 8 feet from Seal's usual spot. Quintero Cruz crouched behind a Plymouth minivan. Vasquez stayed in the Buick with the engine running. They waited. At 5:52 p.m., Seal's white Cadillac rolled into the lot. What happened next took 6 seconds. Seal shifted into park. He reached for a briefcase on the passenger seat. Inside were federal grand jury documents that would help indict cartel members the following week. Velez stepped out and fired first. A MAC-10 spits 1,200 rounds per minute. In 2 seconds, half the magazine tore through Seal's driver's side window. 15 bullets hit him. 5 in the head, 4 in the chest, 6 in his arms as he tried to shield himself. Quintero Cruz opened fire from the passenger side, adding 12 more rounds. Seal's body jerked violently with each impact. Blood sprayed across the windshield, the dashboard, the cream leather interior. On his belt, his Motorola pager buzzed with a message from his DEA handler. Call immediately. Urgent. But it was far too late. The assassins sprinted to the Buick. Vasquez floored it. They made it 3 blocks before ditching the car. Sirens echoed across Airline Highway. A witness, Harvey Dixon, had been fixing his truck nearby. He saw the whole thing and chased the men on foot until they disappeared into a drainage canal. By 6:03 p.m., 11 minutes after the shooting, Baton Rouge police surrounded the halfway house. Detective Michael Deutsch found Seal slumped sideways in the driver's seat, his head resting on the center console. The engine still running. Classical music playing softly on the radio, Vivaldi's Winter. His .45 pistol remained holstered. He never got the chance to reach for it. Within 4 hours, all 3 assassins were in custody. They hadn't even managed to leave Baton Rouge. Quintero Cruz was arrested at a Greyhound station trying to buy a ticket to Miami. Velez was found in a motel, still wearing clothes flecked with blood. Vasquez turned himself in after seeing his face on the local news. Under interrogation, they confessed immediately. This wasn't their first contract killing, and they were proud of the efficiency. Their trial lasted 8 days. The evidence was overwhelming. Eyewitness accounts, prints on the Buick, and Mac 10s recovered from a storm drain. All 3 were given life sentences without parole. But during testimony, Velez made a strange remark. "We were told the American government wanted him dead too." They promised there'd be no investigation. Was that cartel bravado or a clue? Years later, declassified documents revealed something disturbing. Barry Seal had flown weapons to the Contras on return trips from Nicaragua, the same covert operation run by Oliver North. Seal knew which U.S. officials authorized cocaine shipments to fund Black Ops programs. He had names, dates, Swiss bank numbers. Former DEA agent Celerino Castillo later said, Barry Seal was killed because he knew too much about the CIA's drug running. In other words, the cartel pulled the trigger, but the CIA may have loaded the gun. The CIA denies everything. The official line remains. Escobar ordered the hit. The cartel carried it out. But investigators found a detail that raised eyebrows. The motel room used by the killers was paid for with a credit card linked to a defunct CIA front company. Coincidence? Mistake? Or a breadcrumb? No one ever explained it. February 21st, 1986. 2,000 people attended Barry Seal's funeral at Green Oaks Memorial Park. The DEA sent flowers. The CIA sent nothing. Seal's widow, Debbie, later received an unmarked envelope containing $250,000 in bearer bonds. No signature, no note, just 2 typed words. Stay quiet. She didn't. In 1997, she filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the CIA, claiming they deliberately exposed her husband. The case was dismissed on national security grounds, sealed away, just like so many other secrets. Meanwhile, Escobar celebrated Seal's death at Hacienda Nápoles with a party. He had no idea that 7 years later, Colombian police would gun him down on a Medellin rooftop, using intelligence originally built from Barry Seal's testimony. The cocaine pipeline didn't slow. New pilots replaced Seal within weeks. The Medellin route shifted into Mexico, birthing the Sinaloa cartel. By 1990, more cocaine entered the U.S. than ever. America lost its star witness, and the drug war kept grinding on. But Seal wouldn't be the last man to die after threatening to expose government secrets. 35 years later, another American who claimed to have dirt on federal agencies would be found dead in a Spanish prison cell. hours after tweeting, "If I suicide myself, I didn't."